All right, Grand Rising, greetings, good day, and welcome to you all. You are tuned into, of course, the Peak Wellness Hour. Of course, we're going to have an awesome conversation with you all. If you've not been with us for the beginning of the year, we've been focusing on foundation. In our last conversation, we talked about understanding core values. That's the internal compass guiding our decisions and our directions. So today we're going to go a little deeper because many of us didn't choose our original values, they were programmed. Things like family expectations, culture, religion, survival, trauma, society, even people pleasing. We're going to dive into all that today. So today's question is so powerful. What if the values you're living by are outdated code? And what if you're allowed to rewrite them? We're going to dive into that conversation. We want you to be a part of that conversation. So please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be right back. All right, so we are in the digital building. If you are with us, please say hello in the comment section. We've got Queen Kathy B with the United Empires of Equivalon in the digital building. This cute little handsome gentleman in Queen Edith's background. So before we get started, I want to let you all know that Queen Edith, she's so busy all the time. She's got a lot of stuff going on. She's actually serving the community by being indoors with part of our youth community. So she's babysitting. So if you got some background noise, this is our youth. This is part of our youth. And she is imparting lovely wisdom over there while she's talking to us. So we're going to let her go ahead and chime in. You all see that we have Brianne back, our special co-host. With a bunch of wisdom and knowledge. Don't you just all love to hear her speak and come with her wisdom and knowledge? It's going to happen today. So before we dive into all these good tools and resources, we're going to have Queen Edith bring us in, and we're going to dive right in. Queen.
Okay, give me a minute. Okay.
You're so handsome.
Oh, you unblocked me. Good morning, friends and family. Happy Saturday. Today is my testing day for grandmama duty. Wow. Okay, so every one of us lives by an internal script, deliberately, consciously, unconsciously, or not so deliberately, and not intentionally. Every one of us. It is the quiet voice that interprets our experiences, explains pain, and predicts our outcomes. It is the story we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, what is possible, what is safe, and how to do the things we do. Are these stories true? Yes, they're truly a part of who you have become. But is it due to a story you're telling yourself, or is there a way you can change it? Is there a way you can rewrite your code and live a more successful life? Well, invite friends, invite family. My friend, my little grandson, and I, we are ready and we're going to dig deep into this. Okay, share this with you, invite a friend. and let's have an amazing conversation which will turn your life around for the year 2026. Let's go, ladies.
Let's go. What's going on, Bree?
I really like that we're dedicating time today for, working on not dismissing what happened to us, but noticing, you know, even though there are some values and beliefs that were put upon us, I know we discussed that last week,
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't align where we're at or where we want to go. And last week, I mentioned that sometimes, the secrets that we keep us sick. And I said that because sometimes when we don't acknowledge what happened to us, that can be the trauma that we went through early in our life, any type of trauma or broken relationships, maybe culture shock of coming to a new environment. Any of that, and we don't when we don't speak about it, it keep almost like, when I say the word sick, it like doesn't allow us to move forward when we don't talk about these things that are hurting us or that maybe we don't fully understand. So I'm
Mhm.
really glad that we're discussing the very important topic of how can we work on aligning with our core beliefs, our
Mhm.
core values.
I think if you think about it, I've said this before. I think change is so uncomfortable for a lot of people that it can become fearful, it can become scary, and it can become paralyzing. And I think a lot of times we have these choices, we have these decisions that we are free to make, but it is just paralyzing sometimes to fathom moving beyond what you know, even when what you perceive is something far greater than where you're at now. That complacency is something wild. I think about redoing things. At some point, think about this: if you've had to hustle all your life, now you're changing that hustle for sustainable success, right? It looks different. People pleasing. A lot of us are people pleasers. We don't like to say no. I've had a hard time learning and growing out of dodging a no, dodging me having to say no, you know. But sometimes we're gonna look at people pleasing. Now we're doing that. How about healthy boundaries,
Mm,
right? A lot of us are looking for perfection. And I, I think seeking perfection will leave you stagnant a lot of times because it's never, ever good enough. It'll never be good enough. So instead of perfection, why not trade it for progress?
mm,
Progress is a big deal because it doesn't mean that you have to get it completely right the first time and every time. It just means that you're growing and there's elevation and you're going through the process. And sometimes we've talked about this, that process is part of the journey. You have the once upon a time and happily ever after, but
mhm.
we don't like the story in between. So progress is a big thing over perfection. And then a lot of us have dealt with survival mode. We've been in survival mode. How about fulfillment? We're trying to survive, but we're not thriving, a lot of us. We're trying to survive, but there's always that lack. Where do you get to the place where you have that sense of fulfillment? So when we're talking about these things today, don't look at it like this drastic makeover that you have to do. It's just little bits at a time to help you understand that step
Mhm.
by step it's possible. Step by step you can. Hello, beautiful. Yeah, so that's what it's all about. Just taking it one step at a time.
I love that. One step at a time.
Mhm.
And I say this a lot to my clients because they want things fast.
Mhm.
They want to see the change. They think that overnight or over 30 days, everything's going to change.
Mhm.
But that's not true. That's not reality. I mean, how long does it take for a lot of businesses to succeed, to
Mm-hmm.
flourish? You got to be patient. And I think some of the time is that we're so impatient, and we don't even notice the small things that are getting us to the big goal, connected with our values. And then we just give up. Some of
Mm-hmm.
us fall for that. Like, we fall for not noticing where the journey is taking us. I'm a victim of that sometimes, because
Mhm.
health is very important to me. Health is a big value of mine, that I want to be a healthier version of myself. But when I don't see that changes, I get, impatient. And then I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then it's like we want to throw everything out, but it's working. You just got to give it some time. Like everything good in life it requires a long time. And the path, sometimes we drift away, we go to dead ends. And then we have to make a U-turn and come back to the main objective. But with all that being said, is we got to know that the journey is going to be long, number one, and it's going to take us to different directions. And we have to really understand that even the little wins matter. They all are very important. They're all part of our wonderful journey.
And you know what? I'll say this
Interesting.
too. Go ahead, Queen. Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say this when we were children, there was something we used to say a lot, that little drops of water make a mighty ocean. I mean, we used to say that a lot. And one of the questions I've asked clients, how long did it take you to be here?
Mhm.
15 years, 11 years, 20 years. And you expect that making changes for 30 days or even a year will fix it. It
Mhm.
will not fix it, but it will give you the stepping ground. Because as we make these little changes, and I will say this now, it's the reason our first book is Atomic Habits.
Mhm.
Our first book for our book club is Atomic Habits. Atom is little. The slightest particle, feels like I've said this before, the slightest particle, which most people can see without, as it's a microscope. You have to look at it under a microscope. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's so important we do understand that. When
Mhm.
we thinking huge and we are in a hurry, what we do is that we don't see the result we expect in the time frame we expect. So what happens is we get discouraged. And the moment we become discouraged, we feel like, oh, I did all this work and no results. What's the point then? But the point, the Bible call it little foxes, little foxes. And there's an adage that says the last straw that breaks the camel back. You find out that it's nothing. You find out that marriages are ending. The thing that caused the marriage to come to a complete end is not the huge things. It's the little things that we tend to want to ignore. Having said that, in the same token, the little things that we tend to ignore are the things that build us. You
Mhm.
know, they're little red ants. When they go under a house and they begin to eat the wood, it will shock you. Those little ants will bring your house down. It will shock you.
Mhm.
So it's the little changes. And the key here is consistency. Consistent little changes. And like the ladies have already said, patience with yourself.
Mhm.
Patience with yourself. That makes the difference.
Absolutely. And you know what, though? I think what we're talking about here, while we're talking about foundations, when we're talking about core values, these are things that healing and growth, this should be a lifestyle. This is not a momentary thing. This is being whole, living in peace. These are things that are lifestyles. This is not a momentary adventure or experience. We've got to understand and be really diligent about how we get to that point and maintain that point. And I know these ladies deal with right now, they're dealing with addiction and sobriety and things like that. They deal with family and children and marriage and all that also. And I've said this before, and I've never had to specialize in this, but when the conversation comes to once an addict, always an addict, I don't understand necessarily that mindset, because, and I do get it, where you have to remind yourself that this is where I was and this is where I am. So I get the mindset. But the same token, you all can educate me on this and enlighten me and anybody else. Where if you're a cancer patient, right, and you're in remission, I don't like that either. You're either healed or you're not. Remission is like it has the opportunity to come back. But when you're a cancer patient, you don't say, "Well, I'm still a cancer patient. I'm in remission, but I'm still a cancer patient." I think it's all in how. And like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not downplaying the seriousness of addiction and how that's handled on the mental, but I'm wondering, do we get to a point in life where we say, "Yes, this was who I was. This was me," with anything in life? And be able to say, "This is where I am now." And you can, like we talked about before, you can have that scar tissue, you can have those scars, but say that I'm healed. Here I am healed despite the scars. Here I am healed, and walk in that and not feel, I don't know, conflicted or somehow bound to, I don't know. You let me know.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
You see, there's a book out there. I don't like the way the title is written.
Mm-hmm.
It's UNF asterisk CK yourself.
Okay.
UNF asterisk CK yourself.
Okay.
Besides the title being a little off putting for some, there's a wealth of knowledge in that. One of the things the book talks about is that 50,000 words, at least every individual speaks to themselves or speak over themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So in a day, you speak 50,000 words. And most of this is to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so he says that everything we are dealing with, where we are in life, and I have to say this, we are not minimizing anybody's experiences
Mm-hmm.
and life situations.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it because I have lived this life too. And I've been through some stuff that will shock many. But the point is this: there come a time when you have to decide what conversations you're going to have with self, what you are going to tell self, how to show self who is in control.
Mm-hmm.
Because 50,000 times a day, unconsciously, you are speaking to self.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say this, and I'm not apologetic. We become our conversations, we become what we speak to ourselves. The narrative is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
What you've been through is a fact, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
But what you are saying concerning what you have been through and how it's going to impact the rest of your life is on you. I have said over and over again, I will not let one human being who has no clue who I am. Because when you don't know how to use something, you abuse it. And many of us are abusing self by the way we talk to self. The book says 50,000 conversations you are speaking to yourself every day. What do you speak? Because we are not only created beings, we are creative beings. We have what it takes. I don't know how many of you have experienced that. You think about somebody, and suddenly, within a short period, maybe a day or two, three, a week, they show up, you see them, they call you, you meet them at the grocery store, and you say, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about you." You brought that person right into your space. You attracted that thing. So that book is telling us, and yourself is telling us, remove, get yourself unstuck by your conversations to self. It is so important. And a lot of us don't believe in the Bible, but I do believe from the little psychology I've learned, the psychology has its root in the Bible. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Psychology teaches your narrative, your thinking patterns, you manifest. And CBT teaches us in order to get away from that thinking patterns, we have to have counterintuitive way of responding to the same narrative to change. So we have what it takes. We just have to find out what it is and live by it. That's just my thing. I don't know if that helps you, Queen
Oh,
G, or
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah.
we really quickly, will you explain to the audience what CBT is for those that don't know? Either of you.
Okay, I'll start and I'll let Brie finish.
Mhm.
It's called the full phrase is cognitive behavioral theory, or if it's therapy, it's therapy, but it's a theory. It's a theory that in simple man's English, this is the way I'll put it. It's not so much how what happens to you, but it's the way you think about it, the way you process it, that determines your behavior after that. That's the simplest way I can. So let's just say I'm talking to Queen G. Queen G and I have a rapport. And somewhere in public, I yell at her, like, "Hey, Queen, what is this? Can't you see this?" Like, and then Queen G hears me. She's dealt with me so long, but she's wondering, why will she yell at me here in public? I know we talk like that sometimes in private. Then she begins to say, "Okay, well, I can see she's stressed, she's frustrated. I'm not going to take it personal, but I'm going to address it with her later." So she ignores me for that moment, and that's what she needs to do. Or she can be angry and frustrated, and then it begins to show in everything, and everybody's seeing it, you know. So her perception of what I just did, whether she thinks she's going through a lot, I'll excuse her for this time, she's never done this, or who does she think she is? These two scenarios will determine the way she'll behave. Basically, I'll let Brie continue.
I want to go on the core ideas of CBT, but then I also wanted to bring it back to something that Queen G was saying about the readmission or of any kind of disorder. But I actually do a group on CBT because I really love it. Um, and something that really sits with me, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so weird, but it's true. Situations, CBT teaches us that situations do not directly cause emotions, right? The thoughts about the situations are what create an emotional reaction. Okay, kind of like an example that she was giving you. I'll give you an example that we talk about in group. when I text someone and I say, "Hey, can I call you?" and I go ahead and call them. I have not gotten a response from the text. I call them, I'm not getting an answer. My thoughts can go, "Oh, this person hates me." These are my automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts tend to be negative. Why? Because I've been dealing with all these negative thoughts from early in life. If that's what my life started with, right? So then it makes sense that I'm gonna stay with the negative thoughts. G doesn't like me. That's why she's not answering my call. I did something to upset her, etc. My
Mhm.
emotions will be anxious, sad, frustrated, thinking that our friendship is gonna be over. So it's causing all this distress on me because my thoughts let it happen,
Mhm.
right? So then the thoughts and feelings are all gonna influence my behavior. So then when I sit with all this frustration, I can act. And when I say act, I mean, it doesn't give me that much time to act, but I respond by the emotions. Mhm. So then I could blow up her phone and I can send her a mean text, or I can go up to her house and knock on the door. So that can be ways that I react to the situation because my emotions and thoughts have already caused so much distress on me that I'm going to come up with how I want to go about it or the reaction that we discuss.
Mhm.
And they are always going to be influencing one another because they go hand in hand. And it's all because of these automatic thoughts. Things that we don't even think of. They just happen because they're habitual,
Mhm.
right? Based on the situation. Often they're not true, right? Automatic thoughts are not always true. They're based on um, inaccurate situations or what our brain is trying to tell us. And Edith made a really good point is we feed these negative perspectives because that's probably what we're used to
Mhm.
from earlier in life.
Mhm.
So they go Sean, we are talking about and so and then it's the patterns. The cycle will continue on. And what I really like to let everyone know is that when you notice these patterns and you're not even giving yourself a moment to really evaluate the situation before you act on your emotions, a very helpful thing is writing it, journaling it. Because when
Mhm.
you journal, a situation happened, this is my emotion, this is how my thoughts went, and this is how I thought I wanted to react. It lets you give yourself some time to pause and think before you react. And I always encourage people to journal. Even if you're not going to therapy, you can always journal. There's always so much benefit in that. Um, but thinking about it is helpful for us so that we don't say things that we don't mean or we don't react on things that are not going to be beneficial for us in the long run. Because a lot of relationships or interpersonal relationships overall can get disrupted or end because of how we respond. But then going back to Queen G, what you said about when you're going through addiction and you find yourself after a really long time, do you think you're fully healed? What I would say is that, you know, there's been clients that we have had that have long terms of sobriety, like more than 50 years, and then something triggers it. And I
Mhm.
always say, even when you're healed, you can still benefit from working on yourself. And I
Mhm.
think we become complacent,
Mhm.
right? Some people do find themselves to be very complacent. That's why there's depression readmission, right?
Mhm.
Because there's been an episode of depression, but now it's not. present in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that doesn't mean that the depression can't come back. But you got to work on yourself. You got to put effort to let that be paused.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say sometimes it can be a slippery slope because we think we're very confident in ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. The thing
Mm-hmm.
is, like, make sure that you put in effort in yourself to make sure you continue to grow, even when those periods of sobriety or
Mm-hmm.
depression are very long and you're doing well.
I love it.
So we are here. We've talked a lot about our thought processes. We've talked a lot about the fact that we are all operating from codes based on situations, experiences,
Mhm,
culture, family, environment, life in general. How do we go forward from here? Rewriting new codes. What do we do to move from that negative way of reacting? It's not always a response. We react negatively. It's clear that situations don't create behavior.
mhm,
That is really clear. It is the way we process the situation that determines how we're going to behave towards that. The
Mm-hmm.
clear example is you dealing with yourself, even. You send a text, no response, you draw to conclusions. You don't wait, you call.
mhm.
If you weren't going to wait, why send the text?
Right.
Maybe the reason the person hasn't responded is because they are somewhere they can't write
Mhm,
or talk. Why are we automatically thinking there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be something different?
mhm,
Why is your brain automatically going to the negative? Why is it that I speak to Angelina in a certain way and she decides, oh, she's having a hard day. I'm going to ignore this. We'll talk about it later. But we have work to do, so let's get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Why would she give me the benefit of the doubt and not even take it personal? What is different between her and me, who is sitting there analyzing everything negatively, while she gives the other person the benefit of the doubt? It's your processing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the natural way you respond is natural intuition. You don't think about it, you don't do anything about it.
mhm,
It's automatically flows in through you. So it's become nature. It's
Mm-hmm.
become your second nature. It was developed over time,
mhm,
consciously or not so consciously. You developed that way of thinking. How do we go the other way? And one of the things we do is we'll let you, I tell people, write down what you say to yourself, write down your thoughts, as many as come. Take a notebook, split it into two, write all the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Decipher between the negative and the positive. Look at the negative. Why do I automatically think that I don't deserve it? Why do I automatically think that, oh, this relationship, they're gonna just leave me? They also gonna leave because everybody leaves. Why do I automatically think that I'm not meant to be rich? I'm just meant to work, 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 and pay bills, and that's the end of life. That's all my life is. And why do I automatically think that, oh, I mess up everything I touch? I'm not even gonna go there. Why? What if that is not? What if I say, Edith, you have the power. You have the power to overcome this. Rather than I deserve this, I don't deserve it. What if I deserve it? Now you're afraid that you even deserve it.
mhm,
That thought scares you.
Mm-hmm.
What if I attain sobriety? Really? If I can go 1 year and 2 years, but you have never lived with sobriety, being sober before. You are scared. You don't know what to do with yourself.
Mhm.
Okay? What if suddenly you have so much money in savings, like you're able to really actually save money? Oh my. Right. So what, but what if the opposite were true?
Mhm.
Can I
Mhm.
just think that the opposite is true and believe it?
Mhm.
And that's one way of journaling, taking
Mhm.
your automatic thoughts, especially the negative core beliefs, and rewriting it, recoding, write a new code. Oh, yeah, I'm a beautiful girl. I am beautiful. There's nobody in the world like me. And I don't know if you believe it or not, but it is true.
Mhm.
Even with twins, they are each unique. Okay, there's nobody like Edith. You may look like me on the outside, but the
Mhm.
way I think, the way I talk, the way I walk, all of it is different.
Mhm.
There's nobody like me. When I walk into a room, I walk with my uniqueness. So I don't have to be anybody's copycat. Can you believe that about yourself?
Mhm.
Because search the world. There's nobody. You are uniquely made.
Mhm.
How about that? It's not pride. It's
Mhm.
not arrogance. And Bree talked about acceptance. So I let her go in and deal with acceptance, or Queen G accepting stuff. I know that you guys have a wealth of knowledge, so I'll be quiet and
Mhm.
let you go. Hey King.
For a little bit, you were talking about, and I'll be quick. You were talking about, um, in a way, cognitive flexibility, challenging those automatic thoughts, negative, and saying, you know what? What if the opposite was true? Or what if I allow myself to think other better thoughts? Because I don't know. I don't know if my thoughts are actually being true. And that's the thing. Like they disguise themselves as, facts a lot of the time for people that have been dealing with negative thoughts. They seem true in the moment, but when you challenge them, when you journal and you really understand the patterns within, then we start to realize there are so many different alternative beliefs that we can work on,
Mhm.
because there I mean there's endless reasons why someone might not answer the phone, right? So why do I have to go with my first thought? And so that's what you reminded me of, like working through it, being flexible. We got to, because you I mean,
Mhm.
we can even think about it, like sometimes when we don't pick up the phone, there's so many reasons why we don't do it.
Mhm.
Maybe we didn't hear it, maybe we have a lot going on, etc. So we have to be able to challenge the thoughts, the negative ones when they pop up, that, well, what do I do when I get a call and I miss it? Um, but the other thing, that acceptance is very important too, of acceptance of the past. Yes, the past did occur, and yes, it was unfair, and I'm going to, work on myself now, because I can't change the past, but I can choose the next step to take.
Mhm.
That's very important for us to work on, is, okay, the past was hard and difficult and I felt unsafe, but how can I make a safe place for myself now?
Mhm.
I was listening to this interview on NPR the other day. I love NPR, you all. 90.1 if you're here in Indianapolis. um, but, anyways, I was with them and they were talking about healing, and they were talking about storytelling. So, you all know that the game, the telephone, and you share this story, and the next person, you just kind of goes along, you just repeat what's said, and by the end of the conversation, it's something totally different. And it's no different, and I promise you this, and I've looked into scientific research with this, it's no different than your past traumas, trials, and tribulations. When you start reliving those stories, those traumatic stories, those unfortunate experiences over and over again, when you tell those stories, I don't know if you've ever gone through something, say falling off a bike. When I was 10, I had this bike and it was so nice and I was so excited to ride, and I fell off this bike and I skidded my knee. That's the story. That's what happened. Okay, but now so many years later, we kept telling us, where'd you get that scar from? Where'd that scar come from? Watch that scar tissue, right? Where'd that come from? And now, well, I was doing this wheelie on this bike, and I got on the bike for the first time, and this wheelie for the first time, and that's how I got the scar. Now we're going down Dead Man's Hill and flipped over, and this is all these different things. But here's what happens. When you keep harping on those traumatic stories without having conversation to heal, be the intent behind it, it just kind of victimizes all over again. It traumatizes all over again, because now as you've gotten older and now you look at things and you realize that we have choices, we have options to heal, we have options to be whole. Well, why am I still stuck in this situation? Well, because actually it was really this bad. I told you it was this bad, but it was really this bad. And that's why I had to stay in it, because it was really this bad. I didn't tell you the whole story. And now things are, and I don't want to call them fabricated, but they become rearranged and sometimes disillusioned in the chaos that is our brokenness, and that struggle and that fight and that resilience not to heal. It's a conflict of interest within self. That makes any sense. So now we have to justify while we're still stuck in this stage that decades and decades ago. And we never tell people, well, now it's time to heal. Now you got to get over it. It sounds insensitive, but at some point, this is a self-made decision. This is something that you have to decide. Where I've gone to visiting, this thing happened. Somebody didn't answer the phone. I ain't talked to Bree in 2 years. Edith says, hey, girl, you talked to Bree? No, I ain't talked to her. No, I ain't talked to her. And when's the last time you talked to her? And I'm thinking, the last time I tried to call her, she didn't answer. I needed something important. She says, well, what did you need? I don't even remember. Whatever it was important. I know she didn't answer. I was always there every time she called. See how we do this, and now 2 years later, you're stuck in something. If I was Queen Edith, I'd be looking like, this chick is crazy. 2 years, you don't even know why, but you're stuck in this chaos that doesn't have to be, and you can rewrite that script. You can say, you know what? And it takes a big person to say, you know what, Edith, I haven't talked to Bree in a minute because something happened. Really, I can't even tell you why. Thinking back on it now, I'm just being petty. Let me go ahead and pick up the phone, call and check on her. I don't even know why, but we don't want to do that though, because it wasn't my fault. If had she answered the phone, we wouldn't have been here. See what I'm saying? We have to make that choice to rewrite, to recode it, to where if it matters, make it matter. If it doesn't matter, stop trying to make it matter, because it only matters to you. And the reality of it is, it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't. And you're just causing chaos with yourself. And you'll be surprised at how many people don't care about the chaos that you're dealing with internally, especially when it spills outwardly. And it looks just like that. It looks like, no, I'm mad. I want to stay mad. No, I'm angry. I want to stay angry. I don't want to be healed. Sometimes you don't have to say that because it sounds out of sorts and it sounds ignorant. But sometimes our actions say, no, I don't want to be healed. No, I don't want to be whole. No, ma'am, no, sir. I don't want no peace. Peace? No. Rest? I don't think so. Our actions say that. So just think about that. Just think about that.
I really like that you said that our actions speak, a lot into existence. And I think some of us do like that chaos of sitting with the mentality of I am a victim every step down, like every, what is it? How do you say it? Every step down the road. I'm
Mhm.
trying to remember. Sorry. I'm trying
Good
to
time.
think
Good time.
about the word. Um,
I've never heard it before, so
but
I
Good time.
can
it's like
help you.
every step we take, we stay with that mentality.
Mhm.
And I will say is it's okay to validate what you went through, but
Mhm.
how long are you going to put your life on pause? Because when
Mhm.
we light that chaos, when we stay with that pain, I don't know about you, but I see it as everything's on pause because I'm I'm living with what happened
Mhm.
all the time. I don't want to let it go. I want it to, be who I am, and that's where I'm like, that's how we stay sick.
Mhm.
We stay sick and we don't move forward.
Mhm.
And it's so draining. And that's why
Mhm.
I say radical acceptance. How long is it going to take for us to accept it and
Mhm.
realize that it happened so that we can move forward? Because our path that we want to go through, our overall goals, we're not going to meet them if we stay there and we are holding on to things that don't serve us.
I agree.
It's draining. I don't know about you guys, but and being around those people too, and that's why we want to surround ourselves with people that can be helpful for our journey too.
Mhm.
But some being around people like that too drains us.
It does. It does. And I think that's where a lot of times we do have to have boundaries, especially in
Mhm.
relationships where we know, even if we're capable of helping people. I go through things sometimes, and Queen Edith is, doing, she just graduated as a counselor, a therapist. I'm not calling her for my therapy session because I need her as a friend. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes those boundaries we have to know and respect other people. But we have to know when we can't. All because you can does not mean that you should. And so a lot of times we're oversensitive about that. Well, she specializes in this and she shouldn't want to help me because she knows her boundaries and her limits. And
Mhm.
that's just good judgment sometimes, that professional or non-biased support is so important when we are trying to heal and don't feel that we have the tools to do so because you're relying on people, especially people, and you don't always have to have a degree to have wisdom and knowledge. But then a lot of us deal with people that have a degree in us. You know me enough. You can school me on me, but it's not what I need. I don't need you to say yes, Angelina. Yes, this is how you should behave. Yes, go all out of source. We need that balance, and so we have to be mindful when we're engaging in relationships, whether you're giving or you're receiving or taking. We have to understand the balance in that and respect that. And when people are not equipped to carry you through that journey, just respect where they are. And if they can help, they can help. If they can't, but respect where people are. I've learned, I have this thing, I think I've said this before, I have this thing where if you come to me with the issue, I don't even know why you're talking to me if you don't want me to say something, And if I don't know, I don't know. I will tell you I don't know. I will do the best I can to, guide you, and I will tell you. Um, but a lot of times if there's a need, I want to help it. Sometimes people just want to be heard, and so I'll ask you, hey, do you just want me to listen, or do you want some feedback? Do you want some empowerment? I ask that person, I give that respect, and I give that space and opportunity. At the same time, you have to be making some changes for self. If you keep coming back with the same situation and you
Mhm.
just want somebody to listen, that's where you need to really journal. Seriously. If you keep spewing out to people and you're not looking for healing or wholeness or growth, you're being unfair. and it's at some point it's taken advantage of. And it's not that every time you call I have to help you and I have to be your healer or whatever it is, but you have to come with something. You can't keep coming with all your weight and I'm just supposed to hold this weight for you, and you just keep piling it on, and I can't say, hey, it's getting kind of heavy, it's getting kind of heavy in here, you know, and we don't want to do that. So let's respect each other's abilities, um and balances and boundaries. I'll say that.
Before break comes in, I want to ask our audience a question, and I hope that we get some responses. Why do you think you continue to stay in that cycle? Why are you there? What makes you want to tell the story over and over and over and over and over and over again? What is your motive? What do you hope to achieve? Are
Mm-hmm.
you looking for healing and you don't know who to talk to? So you keep talking until somebody gives you a result? Or you've become comfortable sitting there? I
Mm-hmm.
want you to think about it a little bit and let us know. Because we tell stories for a reason. So what is your reason for
Mm-hmm.
staying where you are? PT, misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you staying there? Because every situation does two things for you. It either becomes a stumbling block or a stepping stone. What is yours? Bria, I'll let you come in.
Can I respond to that? Your question?
Please.
It's to the audience, though. I want to hear them. But then
There's a good
again, of
comment. There's a
course,
good response on the screen. So there's a good one right there. Go ahead. You got to, Bree.
Yeah, some people do like to hear themselves talk. I was one of those. And to respond to your question, why do we stay in that cycle? Let me tell you my perspective. Well, it's easy. It's easy for me. It was easy for me. Was past tense, working on myself, future. It was easy for me to stay how I was, to not put an effort in myself, to not change those patterns that I knew were hurting my relationships. That road was easy for me, but I was not living. I was not living up to my purpose. I was not living to the person that I knew I could become. You know, I always like to say, my greater purpose is to help other people. But at that point in my life, and this is back before I graduated from school, even before being in school, I was staying stuck because I didn't want to make changes. The patterns kept repeating over and over again because that was my comfort zone. And I remember my therapist every week that I would see him, he'd be like, "Okay, how have you challenged your thoughts?" I was like, "Dang, I don't really like setting boundaries." He's always like, "Well," he's like, "you're telling me these situations that people seem to be crossing your boundaries. What are you doing about them? You're nothing's gonna change if you don't put up boundaries." He's like, "You're gonna continue to tell me this story over and over again until you do something with what I've given you." Because he gave me a lot of tools, I remember. And then I started to work on myself and noticing, okay, not all of my negative thoughts are true. Okay. How can I pause before I react? How can I continue to instill my boundaries? And then I noticed changes. I was starting to live aligned with my values and my purpose because I started to actually put in the work. And that's something that we don't always want to do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't all want to put in the work. And I would get impatient with myself. I'd be like, well, I'm setting the boundaries. However, X, Y, and Z is still happening. Well, then how can I be flexible in those situations? And that's where when we journal and we notice a pattern in ourselves, we can understand ourselves a little bit better and we can know when we're falling off track. But Edith, that's why a lot of us, and I know people are not responding yet, but that is a big factor, is that change is scary for some of us and it's not easy because it requires patience.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it too is not having the blueprint. Again, like our core values are things that were instilled in us, especially at a younger age, you know. So there's no blueprint. And so again, that fear factor, there's no blueprint. Well, if I go off the grid and do it like this or do it like that, you know, if I don't go to college, if I don't do this, you know, what does it look like? And there's no blueprint. And I think that discomfort is the biggest part of change, because this is how I've always known to do it. You know, a lot of things, even the way we speak, the way we respond, you know, it's learned behavior. You'll see the women in my family, and my husband says all the time, you know, we're a lot alike. In a lot of ways, that's a good thing, and in many ways. But we can see the cracks, and you know, the the similarities in the less than greatest aspects, you know. Um, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we're just different, and we are not different. There are plenty of people out there like us, but we see those connections, you know. So I just think, again, journaling and writing out that blueprint for your life, you know, with the boundaries. It's not saying, don't look at it saying no to somebody else or no to something, but saying yes to yourself, you know. And we don't want to say yes to self. And I think the worry more so is saying no to someone else. We're not even thinking about that yes to self, especially when someone else may not say yes to us, you know. So you have to do for you and everybody else, but it's always in the opposite order, and you're always last on your list of people. This is your list, and you make yourself last on your list. That's something that we have to reevaluate and be comfortable with not doing. If you cannot put yourself first, you're only so good to other people. You know, and we can be the greatest other people and just self abuse, but it all catches up with you in the end. And it's a hefty price to pay when you look back over your life and the people that you served couldn't serve you. And it's not a tit for tat, but relationship is big. Healthy relationships are big for the people that you have to carry. Having good relationships that balance you out makes all the difference, you know, so that you can carry those that need to be carried. And some people don't need that. We have to stop coddling people. Have you all? And I think I've shared this example before. I don't know if you've all seen, what was that? The movie Grown Ups. Was it Grown Ups, where the mom was still breastfeeding this 5-year-old boy at the park? Like, when you can ask for milk, then I need you to get the glass. And this is what we're doing. We're coddling, and I'm just saying, this is what happens, you know. And it looks weird when we have adults still on the teat asking for nutrition, but you just deplete and deplete and deplete. And that's what we're doing with grown adult people that have choices that they can make, choices that they need to make, decisions that they need to make. And sometimes you're at the crossroads. You just got to make that decision and see how it works out. If it don't work out, then try a different road. Try a different route. It's never this or that. It's never just black or white, this or that thing. So just try out some better things that suit your life. And if it doesn't work, you can say that you made progress because you tried. You stepped out of that comfort zone, but just keep going till you find what works. Okay. So yeah. That's all
I
I
have
got.
another question, and you touched on relationships. So I want to go in there. Thank you, ladies, for sharing it. Some of you being vulnerable. I wish we'll have more people share. But I have another question that I want to throw to our audience. Is it also possible, or could it be that you're afraid to be different or to be seemingly better, but than the people you hang out with? Because you've hung out so long. You don't want anybody to think you're better because you're stepping out and being different and being better and growing and maturing and becoming everything you know you can be. And so you remain less than to fit in into that group. Is it a possible or a likely thing that's going on? And I ask these questions so we can think. We have to question ourselves. So who are you in relationship with? What is their lifestyle like? Has it become comfortable? So comfortable that you're afraid that when you begin to rise, you might not fit there anymore and you don't know where else you will fit. And you need these friendships. I need you to think. Because whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you accept it or not, whether you're conscious about it or not, there is a reason you're staying stuck. What
Mm-hmm.
is it? I want to ask you, what is it? Please answer this question. Put it in there because you want to have that conversation with you,
Mm-hmm.
or reach out to us. And because we want to know, it is the reason, it is a stone I'm giving you to step on and step out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'd like to hear and see responses to that question as well. I'm not doing therapy, I'm just asking questions.
And I'll say this, and I know Bree has somewhere to be, so I'm gonna say this. If you are watching now or on replay, these questions that we ask, and Queen is great about asking questions and waiting for a response. You all are always welcome to come back on the replay and come back and write those responses in the comment sections. We will read them. We will respond. We'll have the conversation. So even if you don't respond now, we still want to hear those things. Really briefly, I'll say this: there is a season for everything. And when we talk about seasons, it's not just your situations and circumstances. Sometimes it's the people in your life. Okay. And sometimes they're just there for a season, whatever their purpose, it's just for a season. So we have to get out of wanting to stay stuck with people. You outgrow things. You know, if you look at if you plants, I love plants. You see Queen Eve's plants in the background, they can only stay in these pots for so long before they start expanding. And if you don't repot them, they die. You know, and that's just it's human nature when you're out in nature that they root and they move out. And what happens with big trees when they get to rerooting, they'll tear up the foundation of a house. You know, so you have to be mindful of when it's time to replant yourself, be repotted, be re- repositioned.
Mm.
And sometimes things don't go with that new environment, and that's people don't go with that. And if you're afraid to move away from people that aren't growing with you, it's going to stunt your growth. So you can stay where you're at, but you know it's not a matter of being worse. You know, if I'm better than I'm better, there are some things that I'm better than these young ladies here, and that goes full circle. A lot of things are better than me, but we're all here, and it's not a competition. We're making competition with self. These are self issues, and if we can't respect one another's growth in life, in relationships, then you don't want those people in your life anyways, because they'll be the same ones that'll cut you down at the root. They will.
Right.
So just think about that.
And something else to think about is how many of us are okay with being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are not able to because sometimes being alone requires sitting with this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes this is hurtful because
Mm-hmm.
we have these negative thoughts. But part of the journey that we go through is that we have to be okay with being by ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I think that's why sometimes things become a little bit harder is because we constantly want to be around other people. And at the end of the day, part of self-love is being okay with self, right? We're not saying isolation. We're saying if we have to be alone, we're okay with it. Because sometimes we get a new host to be around, right? But we're not okay just being independent with ourselves, and we fear myself, right? We all fear that. I mean, I'm not saying everyone does, but you really have to ask yourself, am I okay being alone?
I love it. You all have to answer these questions in the comments section. Doesn't have to be right now, but we want to hear from you all. You have to engage with us and let us know what you think about these, because these are very deep questions. And I think they seem kind of roll off the shoulder kind of questions, but they're really deep because they're things that a lot of us do not think about, that we don't consider. And if we stop and take the time to do so, it may be very self-enlightening. So even if you don't want to respond, we want you to go back and find, listen to these questions and write them down in your journal and take some time to just reflect on those things and answer them for yourself. You don't have to answer them to us or to the group or a bunch of strangers, but answer those questions, ask and answer those questions to yourself. And you'll be surprised at what self will tell you, what self will reveal in your aloneness, in that quiet time, in that stillness. You'll be surprised at the revelation that you get. Just being true to self, right? So, Queen, I know we're almost out of time. You want to take us out? Bree's got some. She's been
I
so patient.
do.
She's got somewhere to
I
be.
do
So,
want to take us out, and this is what I want to say. We think the computer is a new thing. The first computer that was created was the human. Let me say it again. The first computer is the human. Everything we do, your body memorizes it, your brain absorbs it, and it stays there. So the codes that were fed to us and those that over time we have rewritten all determine how we behave and how far we will go. So what you put in as in relation to the things we're saying to ourselves, the behaviors we are showing out, all go boldly, all go to determine who we are becoming. What you feed in is what you get out. Yeah, it's right here. It's everywhere. And in order to rewrite the code and change or redirect our path to where we know we are supposed to be, we need to begin to feed it. We need to begin to rewrite the codes. When the computers first came, there was computer languages, coding languages, and they were binary codes. Okay, what are you going to keep telling yourself so you continue to live on that path that leads you to self-sabotaging, getting stuck, not going anywhere, victimizing yourself, living beyond your potential? What are you going to keep telling yourself? It is up to you. 2027 is coming around soon. And we are intentionally choosing these topics so that this January, if you haven't done that, you begin to realign and go to the place where you've been afraid to go. Look in the mirror and begin to speak to the self. Ask yourself the critical and needed questions. Why do I continue to do this? What makes me continue to say this? Why do I always do this? Ask yourself the hard questions and begin to answer. And when you find so much negative, what if the opposite were true? What if the opposite were true? So take a minute, listen to yourself, learn and rewrite your quotes. Your life is worth it. You are worth it. There's nobody in the world who will solve the problems you were born to solve. So please Don't sit in your mediocrity and be okay. Someone is counting on you. Someone is waiting for you. You are worth it. You are not nothing. Even if you were a product of rape, you say, "Mom didn't plan me, Dad didn't plan me." You are here for a reason. The method may not have been the best, but you are here for a reason. And I want to push this into your body, into your mind, into your soul. There's no human being on earth like you. So please arise and push, because a year from today you will wish you have done something about your situation. We thank you so much. We appreciate you. We love you, and we believe so much in you. Look out for our book club. It's coming soon. This week we've put out the book, or we're gonna put it out and
Very
get
good.
started. Atomic Habits. Get the book Atomic Habits. We're gonna make little changes to our lives, and next year will be different. We'll not only be growing in years, but we'll be changing and becoming better versions of ourselves. Your situation is not meant to make you better. It's not meant to stop you. It's meant to help you, give you something to stand on to be better. We love you, appreciate you. Thank you for your time. This is Peak Wellness Hour. We appreciate you.
Peace.
Love.